Good morning, Ultimate Hustlers and Digital Empire Builders. It is that time for the Cortez Hustle Show. And today we celebrate 314 Day here in St. Louis. And we got a very special guest coming to hang out with us as well. We're talking about mastering public relations with Angela Lewis. You guys do not want to miss this. As small business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, the name of the game is to get in front of as many eyeballs as you possibly can with your message, with your story, with your business and or your brand. But there's an art, there's a method to the madness, and Angela breaks down how to do just that on today's episode. So do me a huge, huge, huge favor, ladies and gentlemen. Comment in the chat where you're from, drop the name of your business and or your brand, and smash that share button, ladies and gentlemen. And let's kick it this morning. Yo, what's up, Ultimate Hustlers, and welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show, the business podcast for the entrepreneur of the 21st century. And I'm your host, Cortez Hustle. Our goal is to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how the world's greatest hustlers build amazing brands, scale their businesses to incredible heights, sell more, make more, and create mass movements that impact the world. It doesn't matter if you're a seasoned vet or you're sitting on the sidelines with aspirations to one day unleash your inner hustle. This show will provide the insights into how pure grit, determination, and hard work has morphed into some of the most iconic brands and personalities and how they are moving the culture forward. You'll get a mix of solo shows featuring yours truly, as well as interviews and content from other hustlers that I either know personally or I've learned from or whose grind I've come to know and respect. And you'll also get exclusive recordings from our membership called Monetize My Life Academy, which you can check out at monetizemylifeacademy.com. That's a program where we go live every month with some of the best hustlers on the planet, sharing best practices on how we all can explode our brands with advanced branding and marketing tactics, business development strategies, and financial game planning necessary to build the empires we all desire. Again, that's at monetizemylifeacademy.com. If you like today's episode, chances are the hustlers you're connected to will like it as well. Share it with those in your network. And when you do, use hashtag Cortez Hustle so I can see you and hopefully give you a shout out and share you in my stories. So check out today's episode and make sure you subscribe to the feed on your favorite podcasting networks. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Cortez Hustle Show. I am, of course, your host, Cortez Hustle, everybody's favorite fatherpreneur, coming to you live and direct from Thornton Online Marketing Studios right here in St. Louis, Missouri, home of the Acceleration Business System. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If you need your business to be accelerated, we love to fill your calendar with qualified appointments. So all you have to do is close, right? As they say, always be closing, ladies and gentlemen. So all you got to do is text local biz to 314-730-3999 if you want to schedule a meeting to talk. Some free marketing strategy session will help assess your strategy, your marketing needs. And if there's something we can help you with, we'll certainly do that. But you will leave that call with a game plan and a strategy to help you grow with your marketing. So I'm super excited about that, ladies and gentlemen. Again, text local biz to 314-730-3999 to get on the calendar. We're talking mastering public relations with Angela Lewis today. Talk about getting in front of the right people consistently, effortlessly. That's what we're going to be talking about today. There's an art and a method to the madness. Got to send a huge shout out to my city, St. Louis, Missouri. It is 314 Day around here. Yeah, I don't know what that is. That is a holiday here in St. Louis. A lot of history, a lot of parades, a lot of meetings, a lot of everything going on in the city. We're also continuing to celebrate Women's History Month. So before we bring Angela on, a couple quick announcements. Angela's going to give you some game today. But if you notice, I put in the comments a link to a private QA session that she's going to be doing with us tomorrow night. So she's going to be able to answer your questions about all things public relationship and all of those matters, how to get in front of the right people at the right time, how to craft your message, the whole 9 yards. It's going down, ladies and gentlemen. Also, this Thursday,
local businesses. Tag every local business that you know. We're doing a lunch and learn at noon and another QA session, just basically digital marketing 101, right? A lot of local businesses are struggling with their marketing. In fact, one of the two main reasons that so many of our business shut down because of COVID, A, they didn't have their finances in order, and B, didn't have their marketing in order, right? So they had no way to communicate with their folks to let them know what was going on during the pandemic, and that could have saved a lot of businesses. So be on the lookout for the link to join us for our Lunch and Learn series, where we're going to be talking about the basics of digital marketing and how to add certain processes, systems to your marketing. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I am super, super stoked to have this conversation before you guys this morning. This young lady is an amazing entrepreneur. She's very sharp. She knows her stuff. She loves helping people, and probably more than anything else, she loves helping people make a ton of money by leveraging the power of public relations. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to some of you guys and present to others Miss Angela Lewis. Good morning, Angela. How are you?
Good morning, Cortez. I'm great. How are you?
I am doing extremely well. Glad to have you on the program this morning. Super excited to have this conversation about public relations. But before we get into any of that, we start this show right here on the Cortez Hustle Show with a quote of the day. So basically, the quote of the day is just me sharing a quote that is near and dear to my heart. And if you have a favorite quote, you can share your favorite quote or you can comment on mine. Today, my quote is from the legend, Jim Rohn. Says you're going to either live with the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. But the choice is yours, my friend. Either you're going to discipline yourself to do what you know you need to do, which is going to cause you a little pain, or you going to live with the regret of not doing what you know you should have done, and you're going to have that shoulda, coulda, woulda syndrome all of your life. So, Angela, do you have a favorite quote that you like to live by, or do you want to comment on that?
I do have a favorite quote, and I love that quote as well. The quote that I love and live by is Dr. Maya Angelou, and she said, "People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel." So I love that one because it resonates.
I love that one too. It reminds me of something that Brother Ben X says when it comes to passive income. He said, if you stop chasing passive income and start chasing passive impact, the passive income will chase you. So that's what Dr. Maya Angelou is basically saying. You change the way you make people feel, and they will never, ever forget that. Man, that's dope. I got to remember that myself. So that is, ladies and gentlemen, the quote of the day right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Personal Branding 365. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're struggling with your personal brand, then let your boy help you out. I've got an ebook with tons of cool bonuses for $7.95. All you got to do is go to personalbranding365.com. Check that out for yourselves. I think you're going to be thoroughly impressed with the amount of bonuses and all of the resources that comes with this amazing ebook. If you're trying to build a powerful, profitable brand that attracts your ideal customers to you, then this is the ebook for you, personalbranding365.com. So, Angela, I ask everybody that comes on the Cortez Hustle Show the same question, and I'm going to ask it to you, my friend. And the question is this: who the heck are you?
I am someone who loves helping people connect to opportunities. I am from St. Louis through and through, and sports has been a central theme of my life. And so that really shaped me into the woman that I am. So I'm 6'1", and I've been this tall since I was 12 years old. And so I grew up pretty awkward and feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, as you can imagine, a 6'1", 12-year-old. It wasn't as cool back then, trust me.
Yeah.
But I started playing basketball, and that really transformed my life and created opportunities for me to travel, which was huge.
Yeah.
And to learn about teamwork and discipline, and to travel abroad. I played at St. Louis University, received a full athletic scholarship there. I played professionally in Germany. It was my first time traveling abroad and really experiencing what it was like in another country. And so I came back to St. Louis and worked with a lot of different educational institutions, helping young people, coaching basketball, writing books for young people. And currently, I own ALA Public Relations. I get to help leaders and experts share their stories globally. And it came from my background in communication and an opportunity to really explore and see the world and to really see what opportunities are out there and really what's missing and how we need to help more people share what they've been through, because our stories can literally change other people's lives. I mean, we started the show with quoting other people because we know how important and impactful that our stories are. And so my goal is to help more people share their stories.
I love that. Let's dive into the background a little bit,
Okay.
man. I'm a former ball player. I never made it past the high school level, but I love the game. I got a son playing in college right now, so excited for him and everything that he's doing. But when you mentioned being 6'1" at 12 years old and that awkwardness, right? I've got a niece, right, who is about your height, and she modeled and all that. It was amazing. But we saw, she's from her dad is tall, so we saw that she was going to be tall. So I always called her my big girl, and I did not know that was a diss to her, because I thought she was just the most beautiful girl. She was tall, she was lean, and I just called her my big girl because she was bigger than everybody else. And she was like, and she didn't tell me, but she told somebody, and it got back to me, and I was like, I've been hurting your feelings all this time. I'm so sorry. So talk a little bit about that as you kind of had to grow into your own skin. What was that like, being the tallest kid in the class and all that kind of stuff? And I know how cool kids can be, but I also understand that when you look back on those things, it kind of helps to shape who you are.
There's a few things that made that experience growing up a bit more bearable. Right? One was that I have an amazing family. So I would be remiss without mentioning my family. And I felt really awkward, but honestly, I was one of the shortest people in my house. So when I was at home, I wasn't very tall. I have brothers who are identical twins, Rodney and Ron, and they're 6'5". And so we grew up playing basketball in the backyard. So home was a safe haven, whereas I think a lot of times kids today, you have social media and you have other influences that are impacting how you feel about yourself. And thankfully I had loving parents and grew up in a house that really validated me and affirmed me.
Gotcha.
And then the other thing, as you mentioned, when I started playing ball, that was a game changer. Now, I was 6'1" at 12, and I wasn't very good at all when I started. I'd only been playing in the backyard. The hoop's maybe 9 feet. No one measures it. Put it on I'm from the city of St. Louis, so our hoop was on the telephone wire, the telephone pole in the backyard.
Telephone pole.
Dogs running around. You have trees hanging on one side, telephone lines going through the other side. But that was like my safe haven. Home was. And once I started playing ball and really learned the fundamentals of the game, it opened up so much, because I got to see girls who were just like me. There was a bunch of tall girls. So having a tribe of people who were going after the same goals really makes a difference.
Love it. So went through the deal as you was growing up, got good, played on travel circuits and all of that kind of stuff. Then you go to St. Louis University, predominantly white institution. What is it like being an African-American female in the time that you were there? How did that feel? Even though you were at home, because you were from St. Louis, so St. Louis University, you didn't have to travel, but still, I'd imagine that it kind of put you into a little bit of a different world. How was that experience as a young lady going into that institution, such a prestigious institution here locally as well? How was that for you?
That's such a great question. Ironically, I was prepared for that environment. Although I grew up in the city of St. Louis, I went to St. Louis Public School in elementary school, but for middle school and high school, I was a part of the voluntary desegregation program. So the DSEG program for all my St. Louis people. Exactly.
Where did you get bused to?
Lafayette. So we were in Rockwood. And I will never forget sitting in the car with my dad on orientation day, driving out to West County. We had never been that far west. We'd never driven that far west. So my middle school and high school years were predominantly white institutions. So St. Louis University was really par for the course in terms of being in that environment. However, most of my teammates were Black, which is probably not a surprise. So I was around my team a lot, and it was fun. I'd already been kind of immersed.
Yeah, and I guess we should have went middle school through high school, but you kind of got and I've heard the good and the bad of the bus program, right? It's good that you get exposed to a higher level of education and more learning, more organized. They've got all the resources out. You talking about West County, so they got all the resources out there, right? But somebody who is not used to that, what was the first few years like trying to find your way in that environment and then prove that, hey, I'm equally as intelligent. My background doesn't actually makes me who I am in this space. And did you have trouble making friends and all of that kind of stuff when you initially got out there?
My situation is unique, and I don't think my situation is a very good indication of the experience for three major reasons. One, I have older brothers who were just 1 year older than me. So to be a girl who has two older brothers who were in the same school, you're kind of protected. Like, I didn't have the problem.
Gotcha.
And we played basketball, so all of us hooped. And so if you play ball, you immediately get locked into a circle of friends just from playing, because play is kind of the equalizer. If you can play together, you can always have friends. And so I played sports, so that helped. And then third, I was already doing well academically. And because I came from a home that validated education, I didn't feel inferior in terms of my intellectual abilities at all. So going out there. So I think my experience was just a little different, but being on the bus that long, you do develop this sense of, is where they are better than where I am? And their cars are better than my parents' cars. Some of them in the parking lot. Like, it was definitely a completely different world in so many respects. Most of them who were in my class hadn't been to the city in the same way that I hadn't been out to West County prior to school. So there were some cultural learnings that took place for sure.
Gotcha. And I love that, man. I love the program for that. And I think one of the things that I detest about programs like that is they shy away from the real conversation.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm like, no, this is what has the potential to make this the best thing ever, right? And those conversations are not easy to be had. Sometimes they hurt because out of ignorance, we say things that just are ignorant, right? It doesn't mean to be hurtful, but I think those are opportunities where, like you said, they had never been to the city, you hadn't been to the county, but what we tend to do is repel those people away as like, you don't belong here, so we don't want you to fit in. And instead of inviting them to learn the culture and all that kind of stuff. So that's dope, good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into 1 minute motivation, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new to the Cortez Hustle Show, every day we do something with positive motivation, right? I believe in everything is part of your personal growth and self-development, whether you believe it or not. People think if I'm reading a book like Expert Secrets, then I'm doing personal growth and self-development. No, everything you consume contributes to your personal growth and self-development. The question is, are you being intentional about it, and are you growing in the right direction? Because all of it plays a part. So we like to play a short motivational video, usually 60 to 90 seconds. And I ask you to leave a comment, and I'm going to comment a couple takeaways as well. And those of you who are watching live, you have the ability to comment, then let us know a couple of your takeaways as well. But this is another great motivational clip. So let's get into 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show.
Decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat.
If you want to be an impactful personality, you have to develop certain types of thinking and perceptions that change the way you see yourself and see the world.
No matter what you want to do in life, no matter what your ambition is, that your dreams can come true if you persevere, if you work hard, and if you realize that what you might think is impossible is possible in today's world.
Well, you have to keep yourself focused on whatever your ultimate goal is. There's stumbling blocks all the way. People get laid off, you have a bad game, you get traded from a team that you don't want to be with. But if your goal and your focus remains the same, that, hey, this is going to happen, and I know I have the skills and I have the knowledge and I have the instincts to dig myself out of this hole, you will dig yourself out of the hole. You have to control the situation. Don't let the situation control you.
Your life is what you think it should be. That's exactly what you are right now. You are what you thought you should be. And if you don't like who you are, you got to change what you think you should be. What you think is more important than what you do. And so if you want to change, you got to work on this attitude bit.
Hoo-wee. I don't know about y'all, ladies and gentlemen, but that right there does it for me, man. I'm telling you, decide, commit, act, succeed, repeat. Comment in and drop a comment in if you felt that this morning, right? Let me know in the comments. Those of you who are able to write and type, if you're driving, of course, I'm gonna miss your comments, but let me know in the comments, man. Did you feel that this morning? That is powerful. When you think about the power of decision, right? That's where commitment comes from. I think Denzel Washington said it best. If you you got to first believe and decide to get started. But if you don't commit, you won't finish, right? And commitment is such a loosely used word that I don't think we get it, right? When I make a decision, I'm deciding to cut away from my life anything that's not going to push me towards my goals or my dreams, right? And then I commit to the actions every day, whether I feel like it or not. And I'll tell you honestly, guys, I've been these last couple of days, I ain't been feeling like doing a whole lot of nothing, right? And I'm still a lot more productive than most people, but I've been in chill mode a little bit. And I'm like, man, snap out of it. Snap out of it. You got dreams to pursue. You've got goals you've got to do. So you got to do a lot of acting and taking action steps when you do not feel like it. I think that is one of the key components. So many of us are trying to wait until we feel like building our business. We wait until we feel like improving our relationships. We wait until we feel like going after that dream or that goal. We're waiting until we feel like it. That ain't the case, man. Sometimes you'll never feel like it. Sometimes you will only feel like it after you get started, right? I'll tell you, and some of you guys may have heard me say this before, when it comes to my personal fitness and my training regimen, and I hit the gym and I ride my bike and I jump on my Vertimax and I do a little weightlifting and those kinds of stuff, I never feel like it. In fact, I try to talk myself out of it every day. But you know when I do finally get to feeling like it? After I get started. Once I get started, it's like, oh, now I really feel like being here. I'm into it now. But before I start, oh man, I'd be trying to talk myself out of it. I'd be trying to talk myself out of working out every day before I work out. I'm trying to talk myself out of it. But I made a commitment that I'm going to take as good of care of this body while I'm 47, so that when I'm 67 and 77, I won't be saying, Cortez, you should have eaten better. You should have exercised a little bit more. No, I'm trying to do all of those things that I know I need to be doing for my future self in this current and in this present state. So let's see. Mark says, commitment Awesome word of the day, man. Yes, we have got to commit. Miss Woody in the building. Thank you for the motivational message. Back to my mission, I go. Thank you so much, so much, so much. Yes, the survival system kicks in. The subconscious, man. Yeah, once I get started, but before I get started, Mark, I be arguing with myself. My future self has to come in and be like, you want to feel good 5 years from now? Then you got to do what you got to do today, right? So that is 1 minute motivation right here on the Cortez Hustle Show, brought to you by Angela R. Lewis. Angela is great at PR. In fact, we have a Zoom webinar going down tomorrow night where you guys are going to be able to ask any questions as it relates to PR to Angela. And it looks like she's having some technical difficulties. So we're going to try to see if we can get her back on the program. But in the interim, right, when you think about public relations, right? So what is public relations? Think about what it is at its core. It is the professional maintenance of a favorable public image by a company or other organization or a famous person, right? And believe it or not, if you are living in 2022, you are famous, right? Because social media has the ability to put you all over the world. And if you are not intentional with your public relations efforts, then someone else can be telling a story or a narrative about you that you may not like. There she is. So welcome back to the program, Angela. I didn't get your take on 1 minute motivation. I don't know how much of that you heard, but if you wanted to share a thought or two, then you are certainly welcome to do so.
Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. It just got knocked out for a second. The part in the beginning, I really love when he said, decide, commit, act, succeed, and repeat. Mm-hmm. I love that because it's as things change, especially in the world today, when we just dealt with COVID and we're having to learn new skills and do new things. If you can remember the formula for your past successes, whether it was playing sports or starting a particular business, any win that you had in the past, if you can repeat that same system, you know that you'll do well and you'll be able to succeed. So I love that part.
Yeah, and I think it's the decision part, right? I was listening to Bob Proctor one time. He was talking about, he interviewed this couple and he asked them, about they wanted to have a house. He said, why don't you have a house? He said, and the husband like, well, we just don't have the money right now. He's like, that's not why you don't have the house. You don't have the house because you haven't decided to have a home. When you decide to have a home, then you're going to get the money. But until you decide, nothing happens. And people miss that. People like, I kind of want to do this. Oh, I wish I could do that. And it's like, the moment you decide, you literally bend the universe to your will. And all the resources that you need start to show up in your life. But you don't make that decision, it never happens. And you look at other people like, oh, well, they're just lucky. No, they just made a decision. That's it.
They make the big decision and then all of the little decisions in the process that gets them closer daily. So then it becomes real.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So, Angela, we walk you through your 12-year-old, your 6'1". I mean, that's amazing. Like, did it happen overnight? Did you just shoot up, or was it kind of more gradual? Because I've seen people, have those 6-inch growth spurts, but from 12 years old at 6'1", I think that is pretty dope. But let's transition into your corporate career. So professional ball, SLU. After that, what was it like going from the college world, the professional sports world, to the professional career world? What was that like for you?
Sure. So after playing, I came back to St. Louis and actually went to graduate school. And so I delayed going into the workforce a bit more. So I went to grad school at St. Louis University and started coaching and loved it. And so I coached at Metro High School. We won a state title. That was amazing. Coached with Gary Glasgow, who's one of the legends in St. Louis, and coached at Webster University, which was the exact opposite. It was Division III. And so I learned the stark differences between, the levels. And it wasn't until after that I went and worked for, it was a startup back then. I didn't understand what that meant, but it was a small company. They rented office space and we did reputation management, ironically, considering where I am today and what I'm doing now. But we scoured the internet, reading articles about our clients, and then we helped them build their PR and how they should respond to the press that they were receiving. So that was really cool. Right until I got a call from one of my former coaches, John Ishii. He was coaching at Southeast Missouri State University and needed an assistant coach for the upcoming season. So I left my cubicle to go back to the world of sport and coach college basketball, which was just an amazing journey. Especially, I get all the feels with it being March Madness and cutting down the nets. That's pretty nostalgic this time of year.
Gotcha. Cool. So when did you originally get the thought of becoming an entrepreneur and doing this for yourself, right? I know as athletes, you kind of, a lot of people don't see athletes as entrepreneurs, but you really are crafting a skill set that you market, right? And a lot of people don't see it that way, but that's absolutely what it is. But when was the first thought of, okay, I am going to build something of my own? And what was the first time someone paid you to do it?
The first time someone paid me to do something that I created on my own was the first book I published.
Nice.
And so my very first book was published in 2012 called The Game-Changing Assist: 6 Simple Ways to Choose Success. And the book was for young women to help them understand different things that are connected to life that will help them succeed. I will never forget going through the book writing process, having my first book signing at Matthews Stiffy Boys and Girls Club on the basketball court where I played so many years as a kid. It was so special. And so publishing that first book and getting paid for that was incredible. That was pretty amazing.
I love it. And there's nothing like the feeling of something that you manifest from your own mind, right? And now somebody else sees it as valuable. I've always seen it as valuable. I thought it was dope. I thought it was going to do well, but then somebody else actually transfers money to your hand for that thing. It's an amazing feeling, right? So obviously the entrepreneurial bug is biting. And was it up from there, down from there, lateral from there? What was the next play?
All of them, up, down, lateral, back. you know how the roller coaster of emotion is. So I was on a high from the book, and as like most people who write books, you think that because you wrote a book, everyone's going to want it or like it. And so there were people close to me who I won't name names, but oftentimes those are the ones who are like, they do the little side comments like, oh, I didn't think it would be this good. I'm like, but you're my family. What do you? Anyway, those types of things. So it's not only dealing with how do you create something, but then how do you sell it? How do you get into the hands of the people who need it and want it? And how do you handle the rejection?
Yeah.
Because business is, you're going to get way more no's than yeses. And so producing that first product was a lesson in everyone, it's not for everyone. What you produce isn't for everyone, and that's okay.
I'll tell you.
But for those
I self-published my first book, and I didn't have an editor, nothing. And I actually had somebody send it back and say, "Give my money back."
Really?
It's like, I see all these mistakes in here, give my money back. But I was like, done is better than perfect. It's like, hey.
Absolutely. Every time, every day of the week.
Yeah. So while she sent it back, another 50 people bought it and kept it and got value from it. So I was like, well, okay. I see that it could have been done better, but my next one was better. And I appreciated her for sending it back. But yeah, like it was one of those things. It was like, well, I knew that I didn't have money for an editor, and I wasn't just gonna not put it out because
Of course.
I couldn't wait. So yeah, but I've had those experiences. So let's talk world of PR, right?
Sure.
You was in that space before you realized you was going to be in that space for yourself, right? And you was kind of on that job before you went back to coaching at the university level. So tell everybody what PR is and what a good PR person does or is responsible for.
Mm-hmm. So PR, public relations, is how you manage and craft the stories and the messages about your business, your organization, your company. So it's all about your connection to the public and how you determine what the public thinks about you based on the information that you put out and your messaging about your business. Yeah. So a good PR person works really hard to understand the heartbeat of your work. They work really hard to understand the flow of your work, whether your business is one that has recurring events, whether your business is one that has cycles. So they understand the cycles of your work. And then they work hard to connect you with and put you in front of media sources and outlets that align with who you are and the message that you have and who you can add value to. Our company, ALA Public Relations, we specifically focus on connecting our clients to podcasts. We know clearly, since as we're talking here today, that there's nearly 2 million podcasts, and the opportunity to hyper niche your market, to hyper niche your message, the opportunity to speak your message to your niche, your hyper niche market is even greater in the podcast space rather than traditional media that oftentimes has editorial calendars, and it's a bit more challenging to connect to those sources.
Love it. Let's go down that path of I want to talk niching in a moment, but I want to also remind people that social media, you are your own PR person, right? And sometimes it's not a good thing, Angela. Right? Because people don't realize that, and I have 5 sons myself, and how they use social media, and I just try to remind them that anything you put on the internet never goes away. I don't care. Yes. You put it up for a second and take it down. Somebody else had already screenshotted that, right? And now it's going to live somewhere. And we see this time after time after time with pictures of some of our favorite, politicians or celebrities in blackface when they were in college, and all this kind of stuff comes out. And it's like, you got to be careful with your image and the story that you're putting out. So before we get into niching down for a business, how should people be proceeding with caution just in general as people on these social platforms?
Whew. Well, it depends on their goal. It depends on their goal and what they are trying to accomplish. I think most people interact with social media unconsciously, opposed to consciously deciding who they want to be and how they want to show up. I conduct some media training. This is part of what we'll do tomorrow night with the call tomorrow night. But I have media training with different organizations, and someone said to me, well, I don't know what to say. And I said, well, just you get to decide how you want to be perceived, because there's this feeling that you have to share everything. Oh, I have to share what I ate, and I have to share who I went out with, and I have to share what I did today, and I have to share how I feel about this current event because everyone's talking about it, but you don't. You actually can only choose to decide to share certain portions of your life, and that's okay. because all of us know or should know that social media is just a snapshot, and some of it isn't even reality. I mean, all of it doesn't tell the whole story of who we are and what we do. Even if someone's posting a lot, there's still a lot that we don't know, and that's okay. So we can't, but we fully expect to know people solely from what we see them posting.
Yeah. And I think you hit it on the head, man. Consciously versus subconsciously. But then I also think there is over consciousness to it, with where you're trying to be too perfect out here on the platforms, and you leaving no room for vulnerability at all. And I think that's where the most connections happen, is in your ability and willingness to be vulnerable with who you are. And again, it doesn't have to be every vulnerability, but people want to know the real deal. In business, you're talking about getting your message to your hyper niche audience. Talk about the importance of crafting that brand story and getting that messaging right.
So crafting the brand story is really key, because there are certain people that you're going to resonate with who actually need what you have, and then there are certain people who just aren't your target market, and who your products and services may not be a best fit for. So really thinking about and understanding what they need, so you're actually using the language that they use, is a great way for them to connect with you and to know that what you have and what you provide is exactly for them.
Yeah.
And it takes time. So here's what I talk about in our some of our media training is, you can have more than one way to tell your story. You don't have to tell it the same exact way, but you want the elements to be the same. The elements. So for example, when we talked about me being 12 years old and being uncomfortable in my own skin and feeling awkward and not really fitting in, I have so many stories about that. But depending on who I'm talking to, what we're talking about, and the nature, I'll tell it a little differently, but it will always be like that core message is that I was uncomfortable, I was taller than everyone, and basketball was the thing that changed my trajectory.
Yeah. And I think that's important. Those core things. Mine always is, I'm fourth born of 6 children, raised by a single mom on welfare, right? That's where we started, right? She had $900 to raise 6 kids. She had a $300 welfare check, $300 in food stamps back when you got paper food stamps, right? And then I lost my dad when I was 11, so she had another $300 from a Social Security check, and that's what she raised 6 kids on, right? And actually sent my sister to college, and she got a master's degree and everything. I'm like, how do you pull that off with $900? Right? But those elements, that story, and people tend, especially us in business, tend to believe that those things aren't important, right? So it's like, let me just get to the sales message. I'm like, no, that is the sales message, right? Yes. Talk about that being relatable in a way. How important is that, being in a position where others can relate to me from a business perspective, right?
Absolutely. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. And the only way for people to trust you or to get to know you is to be able to share who you are, or what the company's values and mission are. But that comes from a very vulnerable place and a sincere desire to help. And when people know that what you're offering is to help them grow, or to get better, or to gain more sales, or to share their stories, whatever your product or service is, then they know that you're real and it's different. It's like, here, buy this so that I can become rich. It's like, no, we want people to know that whatever we're doing, or whatever business that we've created, is to help them.
Yeah.
And the rest will take care of itself on our end.
It's buy this because it solves this problem that I once had and solved for myself.
Absolutely.
I'm passionate about helping you solve it, because I know what's on the other side of you solving this problem. But
Yeah.
sometimes people don't, if, are unwilling to say, hey, I struggled with this, and this was how I overcame that struggle, and now I want to help you overcome that struggle. And I think if reality TV hasn't done anything for the world, Angela, it has given people a desire to want to know the behind the scenes, right? The people behind the brands and all of that kind of stuff. So you got to be willing to be a little bit vulnerable and share your story. I talk about, my wife asked me why I want a Tesla so bad, right? And I'm like, she's like, they not the only one that make electric cars, right? I'm like, no, but I don't know the CEO of Ford and what they do, right? I don't know the CEO of Hyundai and why they are into electric cars. But you know what I do know? I know what Elon Musk believes about changing the world with electric cars. So I'm drawn to Tesla because of that. Even the name Tesla, Nikola Tesla, and how they played him with all of his genius and creating free electricity for the world. I'm like, yeah, because of that story, I'm connected to the Tesla, right? Now, it might not, Ford might make a better electric car, but I don't want a Ford because I don't know the story behind why Ford makes an electric car, right? So, go ahead. You.
I was just going to say, yes, the story resonates. And if you tell the story long enough with authenticity, people, it connects. It connects on the human level.
Yeah.
So
And that's what it is. And I'm like, and it's funny because from another perspective, my digital marketing side of me, and I watch how people move from a marketing standpoint, he has never spent a dime on advertisement. He never had to, because he's the brand and he creates news everywhere he goes. So he never has to spend money on marketing. I'm like, man, that dude is a genius on both levels. His story is dope, and he knows how to get that story in front of the right place. He knows what to do. Even when he went on a Joe Rogan show and hit the blunt with Joe Rogan, that was the funniest media ever. But it had everybody talking about him. He knows how to stay in the media cycle. Public relations. So outside of crafting and story and niching, you say you guys focus on podcasts. Is that the play though? If there's 2 million of them, right? It seems like there's a lot of opportunity there, but how do you guys pick the right ones for your clients and things? Because there's a lot of them out there that there's one episode and you don't hear from them ever again, right? So
that is one of the ways we really help clients, because we do all the work to do the research to make sure that we find the right ones. You're absolutely right. There are a lot. And there are some people who have podcasts that don't exist anymore, but they're still in Apple. And so we look for a few things. The first thing we look for is, when was the last episode released? Because that's critical. The obvious is we look for the target market. So that's the first starting point. But once we find the keywords or the target market, we look to see when was the most recently released episode. We check to make sure that it's obviously an interview-based podcast. Some podcasts are simply one person sharing their expertise or their stories, or it's a commentary-based podcast. So we look for those that are interview-based, and then we actually listen to previous podcasts to make sure that our client would be a good fit for the podcast. The last thing we want is for our client to go on it and for it not to flow well with the people that we work with, because we want them to be able to utilize that content beyond the initial interview. So for podcast booking, there's really like 3 main goals. One is obviously to have clear, masterful messaging, right? Get your message out there. The second piece is to make meaningful connections with the host and potentially with other guests. For example, we have a client, Devin Moody Graham from St. Louis. Devin's amazing. Let me shout out Devin. And so Devin we connected Devin to a podcast called Daily Mom Grinds. And as you know, some podcasts have seasons. So this particular podcast was just taking a break, but was looking to the next season. And so now Devin has a series with the host. Wow. And so she was able to make this meaningful connection that led to exponentially more content. She's an international business strategist. She's planning a trip for women for this business conference in Paris coming up this summer. And so it was a great opportunity for Devin to maximize the meaningful connection.
Yeah.
And then the last piece is, you get to use that evergreen content and really maximize the marketing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And as small businesses, especially local businesses, a lot of times we don't see, I mean, just in general, people are still asleep on podcasts, right? I listen to Social Proof and David Shands over at the Social Proof podcast, him and Donnie Wiggins, and he talks about all the time that in the next 10 years, those who start and have and stick with their podcast will be the influential voices of the rest of this century, right? But so many people are still, he's like, podcasting is kind of like me telling you to buy Bitcoin 15 years ago and nobody's listening. And he's trying to tell everybody that, hey, start your podcast, get your voice out there, hone your skills, get in on this craft, because you are going to be the places that the people are coming to for the messages. Because I think everything is going hyper niche, right? Everybody wants to be connected to a community, and podcasts get the chance to build communities around a centralized message or thing. So super dope, man. We are at my second favorite part of the show, Angela, and we call this segment freestyle, because I know you got bars. You from the Lou. No, freestyle is not about rapping or rhyming. I could drop a beat though. I could drop a beat though if you needed a beat and you want to drop some rhymes. But what we do with freestyle is, as I'm building this multi-billion-dollar international media conglomerate, starting with this podcast, that will one day surpass Ted Turner and Walt Disney, I don't always ask the right questions, right? And the conversation doesn't always evolve to where we want it to go. So freestyle is where I give my guests an opportunity to either reiterate something that they've said that they feel is important and needs to be reiterated, or if there's something we didn't get the chance to talk about, you get the chance to talk about it here. So take 2 minutes, sis, and let the people know what's on your heart, what they need to know about PR. So this is freestyle right here on the Cortez Hustle Show with Angela Lewis. Hit them with your best bar, sis.
What people need to know about PR is that you don't have to be perfect to get your message out there. Really start thinking about who you want to serve, how you want to serve them, and what exactly you want them to know about how your product, service, or expertise can help them. If we really come from the lens of how can I help? How can I help other people grow? How can I use what I know to help other people thrive? That makes a difference. I think podcasting is great, whether you're interested in working with us or you're looking for podcasts on your own. I highly encourage people to do the simple things, like you can go into Apple, into the podcast app on Apple. You can search for podcasts. You can go to their website. You can reach out and let them know how you can actually help their audience by serving with your story or with your whatever your expertise or niche is. I mean, hosts are always looking for guests, and so being able and willing to try. Here's one thing I will say. We have about a 10% conversion rate on those we reach out to, right? So that means you have to reach out to a lot, and you're going to get no's. It's just part of the deal. It may not be a good fit. They actually just may not want to talk to you. They may not respond, but the follow-up is everything. We follow up 4 times. And so there are some people we were doing media training with, and they were saying, well, I tried, and they didn't say anything. Well, you just have to keep trying, and rejection is part of the process. So if you can get over that part of people telling you no and people not wanting or being willing to enter a conversation, that's okay, because someone will. So you just have to stay with it. But we all have some experience that can be helpful, and that will actually be able to transform someone else's life. So use those skills and gifts that you have. And this is the last thing I'll say about public relations and connected to life is whatever skills you don't have, you can go out there and develop them. And you probably have some skills that are lying dormant that you can utilize. A year ago, I was life was very different. And because of COVID, things changed. And so really excited about the work that we're doing. But as Cortez, as you mentioned, I had already been publishing books and reaching out to media for my own work, and saw what I could do for myself, and then decided to help others. So you have that ability with some skills that you already have. You just refine them a little bit, and you can really up-level that and serve more people.
Love it. Drop the mic, man. Bars right here on the Cortez Hustle Show. That is Freestyle with Angela Lewis. So, we're going to be having a live Q&A session. If you guys have clicked on the link in the description and you registered for the Q&A session with Angela tomorrow, I need you to come back and just comment, I registered, right? Click on the link in the comments and just go register real quick and come back. You got 4 minutes. I want you to come back and post that I've registered. So we're going to do that live Q&A session tomorrow. What can people expect?
People can expect us to talk about the significance and importance of crafting your brand story, that will be able to share what they're working on and how they can craft stories. So it will be, in some ways, a coaching session. Mm-hmm. They can expect to hear some media tips around how to best prep and prepare for interviews. And then, of course, the best ways to reach out to podcasts and how to be a guest on podcasts.
Love it, love it, love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get yourself booked and you're like, hey, I've got something that I want to say, but I don't quite know how to say it, well, guess what? Sign up for tomorrow's Q&A session. Let us help you craft that brand story so that when you follow Angela's tips on going out and reaching out to podcast hosts, or whether you work with them directly and let them get you booked, you'll be very comfortable on a podcast interview, whether it is a video podcast like this, or you're just answering questions over the phone, whatever the case is. It's all about getting your message in front of the people. Tell them real quick, Angela, how can they reach out and connect with you directly?
So you can reach out and connect with me and our team at angelarlewis.com. There's a short form on there, fill it out, and let me know that you've watched the show. We'll get that and get back to you and schedule a time. So we ask for just a little bit of info so that we can learn a little bit about you. And then on Instagram, we recently launched our IG page. Our team is amazing. So our IG page we're excited about is ALA Public Relations on Instagram. Mm-hmm. And you can see some of our clients, some of the people we work with, and you'll be able to see some of their upcoming released interviews. So either follow us on Instagram, DM us on Instagram, and/or go to the website and reach out and we'll connect.
Love it, love it, love it. We've been listening to and learning from Angela Lewis, all things public relations, crafting that brand story, and the power of getting yourself on podcasts like the Cortez Hustle Show, man. We put you in front of a lot of people. And this content lives forever.
Forever.
You got to understand that about the podcasting world. So that's it for us today, ladies and gentlemen. Until we talk to you next time, we want you to get your money up because you absolutely can do it. But more importantly, you deserve to do it, each and every single one of you. Now hustle up. But you've got to overcome fear if you're going to win.
You're tuned into the Cortez Hustle Show. Please like and subscribe.